Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 56th Chicago International Film Festival's Q&A for Shorts 6. With the comedy program, it's you just watched this beautiful collection of hilarious films, and we're lucky enough to have two of the directors here to speak with us. So Bridget Moloney, director of Blocks, could you say a few introductory words about your film?
Oh, sure. Hi, I'm Bridget Moloney. I'm the writer and director of Blocks. And I made the movie because I am the mother of two young children, and I wanted to make something that looked how early parenthood felt to me. So I wanted to sort of do turns out a little bit heavy-handed visual metaphor for what my day-to-day life felt like.
I'm Georgi, Unkovski, a writer, director of Sticker. It's my second short film. I hope you liked it. I don't know what to say. I made it kind of exploring this line between drama and comedy. It's my favorite genre, and I don't know, it's kind of inspired from personal experience and taken to an extreme.
Wait, so it sounds like both films are born out of personal experience. Do you want to talk about translating your real life into a filmic world? Yeah, either of you can take this question.
Sure. You can hear my barking dog, which adds just to this is what life is like. I might not be able to answer right now. For me, I ended up sort of feeling like the snake was eating its tail a little bit because I ultimately made this movie. You're coming with me, everybody. I made this movie. Look, it's a tracking shot. It's a oneer. I made this movie in my own home with my own children, and that decision was born out of necessity for budgetary reasons and logistical reasons. But then it sort of felt like it wasn't art at all. It was like it felt like performance art a little bit because we all were like huddled in my bedroom watching someone in my bathroom, and I was like, this feels a little close. Like, I didn't mean to make this so personal. So it sort of felt like a direct translation a lot of the time of what was actually happening. And I like to say, and then I'll stop talking, that I feel like this movie is just like one click off from reality. Like, obviously it's heightened and it's surreal, but it doesn't feel, and I've gotten this feedback, that it doesn't feel that insane. Like, it doesn't feel like fantasy so much as just heightened. And so that's sort of what I was looking for.
For me, I guess it's not as personal as with Bridget, but I just had that experience at DMV, and that very first scene in the film that's actually happened to me verbatim, and kind of tried to, because we all have this kind of struggle with authority and kind of unpleasant experiences with authority, and I just wanted to take it to an extreme and see how like a simple this mix-up can, how far can I take it to influence this man's life. So it was just kind of like, I don't know, trying to find a balance also between the tragedy and the humor, stuff like that.
There's, in that opening scene, there's a really nice detail I like. After the main character has exited the frame, everyone kind of crowding in to see who's next. Watching it again this morning.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is.
Yeah. And I want to ask both of you about the lead characters and the casting of your film, because they're both such strong leads. Can you talk about working with your lead actors, first finding them and then working with them to kind of build the film around what they can bring?
Georgi, do you want to answer this one first?
Okay. So the lead actor, Sashko Kotev, he's a really brilliant comedian. He's been doing comedy for like 20 years almost, and I was kind of against casting him in the beginning because he was kind of locally very famous, and I thought we need like a more serious kind of person for the role, but then like we worked with him and he came to the casting and he absolutely killed it, and there was really no choice but to cast him in the end. And I think he kind of really managed to get that balanced really nicely, like without being overtly funny and kind of just going through the motions. Yeah, and it's my second film with him, and I really hope to work with him in the future. He's great.
It really is. This was my second time working with Claire Coffey, who's the lead in my movie, but we actually met at Northwestern. We went to college together. So we met in 2001, I think. But then we became very good friends as adults. And I just love working with Claire. And it's a little bit of a cheat because we have such shorthand with each other and she knows my voice so well. And I know her personally so well. So it's like, you know, it's easy to communicate with her on set. But she's also so good, and she's made her living mostly doing network TV. And she's just like, she's such a pro. So, you know, that's really helpful when you're like, I think we're going to do a lot of takes of this. And her face is so expressive. And also, like, you know, she doesn't get to do a lot of internal stuff. Like, she doesn't get to do a lot of like smaller, weirder things. So she's also always very game to do it. So yeah, but she's a dream to work with, and she's also very funny, which is, you know, I feel like you always want a funny person just for anything. It's such a superpower. So yeah, Claire, she's great.
I'm wondering how much Claire brought to the film in terms of like the script and like the jokes. And this can be a question for both of you. I always wonder with comedies, like what's scripted and what's improvised. Is there room for sort of actors to like input maybe their own comedic ideas, just because comedy is this like elusive thing? So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I also enjoy improvising, and so I always like to leave room for it. You know, once we get it as scripted, really clean. But Claire especially, so we had like Ruha Taslimi, who plays the friend, also is an incredible improviser, and that's actually how I met them. And we did, so like the park scene was probably, we had the loosest stuff. So a lot of those jokes are scripted, but Claire especially would bring stuff in like, it looks like your body has to potty, which is such a good line that she says. We were talking about like RIE speak, which I don't know if parents among us, it stands for Resources in Infant Educaring, and it's this style of parenting where observational, it's sports casting. You say like, it looks like you're having a hard time with that, or I'm going to stop your hand, I can't let you hit me. Like, it's all, and you know, I rolled my eyes, and then I had a kid and read Your Self-Confident Baby and was like, sure, let's treat them with dignity and respect. But sometimes you end up saying ridiculous things like, it looks like your body has to potty, or like, stop your body. It's all weirdly like objective and removed. And so we were talking about how to get in and out of that scene, and Claire was like, I want to try some like RIE stuff that I'm like yelling. So that was her, and I loved it so much, then I made her say it basically in every take. And then so I'm all for it, and I feel like if you build in some space, I mean, this is very obvious, but like, you know, it's my instinct too, because I want to move on. But you know, there's the opportunity to like even just a look or something new in the action that can be very funny. So like, yeah, Claire definitely brought herself to it, where she'd be like, I feel like I'd say this, or like she just did a lot of good buttons also, a lot of which made it in, but of feeling like I'm gonna get out of this a different way.
Yeah, I think that's
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
The scene in the park, I think, is like this. It's such a natural rapport between the two. Yeah, I think it just feels, if it's not improvised, it feels like the two just having a conversation. So
yeah,
very funny. Georgi, what about you? Room for improv on your set?
I just wanted to add that I also really enjoyed the performances in blocks. They were really, really natural and organic, and I really enjoyed them. The humor as well. In terms of improvisation, I mean, I would love to work on a project that allows for more improvisation than this. I think this was very kind of very storyboarded, very precise, and we even made it shorter a little bit in the end, so a lot of things went out. But I love to give actors, the freedom to try stuff. I think it's really important, even if something doesn't work. I think it's very important to explore and let them explore, and not just tell them right away exactly what you want, because then you're kind of, I don't know, robbing them of something that can give you that you can't even think about as a director. So I've tried to create a positive environment where people can try stuff.
Yeah. I'd love if you guys have questions for each other. Feel free to ask, of course. But I want to ask about the design of both films. Bridget, let's start with you. You mentioned that you filmed in your own home. Did you have to bring in some toys, or were they all there?
So we had a production designer she's incredible. She's an AFI fellow, because I made this as part of the directing workshop for women, which is part of AFI. But she said, I want to come over, don't clean up. And I was like, okay. And then, again, I was like, this is like some weird humiliation theater that I've engaged in. And she took pictures of our uncleaned up house and then basically recreated it a little bit plus. Like it was, it's certainly been there. But yeah, but we talked a lot. This was my most storyboarded project, and I'm glad, and I think, and I've since committed to working pretty much this way always. So I also I wanted a tight color palette. I was like, I want this to be as visual as possible. And I shot in 4:3 because I wanted the frame to feel tight and to be able to be as full as possible. And really it was all in service of the Lego hut at the end. I wanted to make sure I could fill the frame as much as possible with that in the end. And we succeeded, and we built that hut. That was practical. She, the production designer, and I and her intern built it in my living room, and our nanny helped too. I was like, our nanny is the person making the most money doing this right now while the children are napping. But it was, so we did have to move things around, but those were our belongings for the most part. And it was really, and everyone kept being like, your kids have a lot of toys. And I was like, I get it. I wrote the movie. I know it's overwhelming. It's unnecessary. It's late capitalism and it's embarrassing. And let's move on. So but that was an important exercise also for me. But yeah, so we had production design, but it was, she didn't have to buy anything, I'll say that.
How long did it take to build the hut?
A while. It took many days. She designed it. One of the reasons we hired her is because she had a beautiful rendering of it when we had our first meeting, and she had worked at a children's museum doing installation in China. And so she really had some ideas. And it took probably 6 days probably on and off. We built the walls and then did the smaller pieces, and then the roof was a little bit of a scramble. But yeah, it took a while. It was so satisfying though. That's exactly what I wanted it to look like. And then I just would gaze at it. But my children never got to play in it because we had to take it down right away because we didn't shoot chronologically. So they still have a chip on their shoulder about that. And then we donated the Legos that we did have to buy some Legos, and we bought them by the pound, and then we donated them. And they'll still be we never played in that hut. And I'm like, you guys go play with something else. So there you go.
Yeah, great. Georgi, I want to ask about the color in Sticker. It's very controlled, it seems, and I just want to ask about sort of your process for selecting the colors. It's at the DMV and the police station, both very striking. And then also I wanted to ask about filming sort of the fading light, because it's taking place over the course of this one day. Can you talk about any sort of challenges that arose trying to do that?
I think that the most important thing that we did was location scouting, and most of the color comes from the locations. And we did I mean, I don't know, maybe at least 50 different locations, just seeing what works best. And we really wanted to keep this architecture that's kind of like socialist communist architecture from 70s and 80s, and that architecture has inherently this kind of tone that works well for the mood of the film and the theme as well with the character. So it was just kind of constructing these spaces, because like the DMV and the police station, and these are all constructed spaces, so none of them are real. And they even like we would film a hallway in one location, and then the door opens and we would be like in different part of the town just for that room. So we had the kind of luxury to do that, and I think that's what maybe contributes the most, as well as Naum Doksevsky cinematography. He's a very talented DOP, and he did a really good job on it.
It really looks so good. And your color palette right now, your color story is great just behind you. I'm like, this is a man who has a lot of control.
I thought the same, but when he logged onto the Zoom, I was like, of course, yes.
Yeah, I was like, and wardrobe. I mean, look, it's amateur hour over here. Yeah, the movie, my favorite visual components are the end with the dance, with the kids, and then the white face and the atmosphere. It's very beautiful.
That last scene was based on like that song, and the performance is very absurd, but it's actually taken from real life. It exists almost as is, and it's taken from a 1994 children's festival. So it's real. It exists. It existed.
It's great.
Can I ask about the children in both of the films? They're both like these small but extremely important sort of roles. I'm thinking, Georgi, of the moment where he gives like the wrong child the horse, and her performance is like astounding. Just her turn away with the horse is incredible. Can you talk about like working with her on that like perfect timing?
She's great. I mean, she's maybe the one of the few child actors that really works a lot in Macedonia, and she's already had experiences by shooting film and TV shows before, and she's lovely to work with. Like, she's perfect. She understands everything. She knows, understands camera placement and everything. And I mean, working with all of them was really fun, because we had them for like 12 hours on set, and they were so thrilled to be there. They're really happy. They're like keeping us all going actually in the end. And they got the kimonos as a gift. So there was a lot of screaming at the end. The costumes, they got them as a gift. So they were really happy. And it was one of the better days of the shoot actually.
And Bridget, the children in blocks, how about those?
Yeah, the two children that are Claire's children are my children. And I have worked with kids before, and I was like, this will just be easier. Turns out I don't know if that's true, because I'm their mother. But it was great. I mean, they're great, and we got what we needed. But it was, it also, they were like, there's someone in our bed. Like in my there was like the sound guy was like sitting on his bed. I was like, I know, that's Miguel. Say hello. But they did a great job, and it was fun to use them also, because we have this like time capsule now of them. And then the kids at the playground are my friend's children, who I was like, is anyone free and wants to help Art? And they were, and they had to have work permits, and we live in Los Angeles, so like there were lots of children with work permits in my larger social circle. It turns out, like, who'd already done like 4 national commercials and are in SAG. So yeah, but I when I wrote it, I mean, I minimized them on purpose in the script, just because like it's about parenting, not about the kids. And I was glad I did, but it was really when they're playing before she throws up in the trash can, the one where I just accidentally recreated, and they are playing with their toys, and we just let the camera run and coach them from behind. They're kept not wanting to dump the block, which was like a huge thing in the script, and I wanted it, and she was like, but who's gonna clean it up? which I was like, there's a whole crew, but you've also never worried about that before. So I don't know why we're worrying about it right now. But like that was fun to have. And in the edit, that was like, there was so much good stuff. So yeah, they're mine. They're mine. And I'm so happy they're mine.
And can I ask about the vomiting of the blocks? Were you, was Claire like made to put Legos in her mouth?
Yeah. Yeah, so the money shot, as we called it, is a composite. We did a green screen with a vomit cannon that was that we shot on a green screen, like projecting. I mean, I have all these test videos that were great. We had special effects and visual effects. So I have a background in theater and a very minor, like I have a deep interest in performance art. So I was like, I'm gonna rig this myself. Like part of the fun is making it. And my producers were like, absolutely not, like go sit down. And so I did, and I'm glad I did. So we had this, so it's a composite, the one where you really see her vomit. And it was very important to me that you can, that there's no way she could have had that many in her mouth. I was like, that's my big thing, is it has to be like, there's no way we faked this. And then, but when we shot it on the day, she did have some in her mouth, and we had this mixture that was Metamucil that had been sitting in water. Like it was like thick Metamucil that looked like bile. And Claire started to have like a gag reflex to the smell of it by the end. And then we had like sanitized Lego that were fresh every time in her mouth, but they had to match what she rinses in the colander. And so we had like a stockpile of those. So yes, so she had them in her mouth, and then in the oneer, she has them in her mouth the whole time along with some bile, and then we like faked it and had more in the trash can. But that was like, you know, that was, I asked a lot with that. But we had to have a medic also. We had to have a medic on set every time she had Lego in her mouth. So in the other oneer where she comes in at the friend's house and vomits, we also had to have, she was like, what if it's only 3? I was like, no, we have to do it. So yeah, so we did it. So it's practical and some visual effects.
I just want to say it worked really well, because it was making me anxious, like every time, you know, I was feeling it, you know, with her. So it was really well made.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anxiety is the like the operative feeling kind of in both of these films. They're both like these like kind of, they feel both of the moment in a particular way, with like anxiety and bureaucracy, and this sense that like things are maybe crumbling a little bit. It's amazing to find the humor in such like dark ideas. Do either of you want to say a few words about sort of mining anxiety and darkness, I guess, for comedy?
I'll go first. I think for me, the best comedies have anxiety and darkness in them, I think, and I think it's really important to have that humor to get through life, because, you know, it can be kind of chaotic and messy experience. So it's good to have that ability to laugh at your troubles and your misfortune. And I think a lot of us, you know, identify with that. So.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I mean, I'm an anxious person, and so everything is in the lens of my anxiety disorder. And yeah, I just feel like it's part of being human. And it's funny, and life is funny even when it's terrible. I mean, not always, obviously, but like even when things. I have a background as a couples and family therapist, actually, and I was really taken aback when I first started seeing clients by how funny people were who weren't funny on purpose, or even sometimes they would be, their timing would be incredible, telling me a really sad story, and then would be like, but that's my mom, and they do it to take the tension out, and it would be very funny, and this is someone who doesn't feel funny. And I was like, well, yeah, this is just a part of being human, is that they're jokes, like whether or not we mean them. And I think about that a lot, because that's what it's like, you know, day to day, even when things feel really tense or terrible.
I'll just ask, what are you working on next?
Well, we just there's really only one way to make films in Macedonia, and that's by getting the support from the National Film Fund. So we just applied with my debut feature, and hopefully we'll get some funding to make it next year. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
I can't wait to see it eventually on demand somewhere. Blocks is in development as a television show right now with a studio and some producers. So it's a heightened reality existential parenting series, I guess. I forgot how I pitched it because these things are taking a long time. Like, I sold it in July. But yeah, so it centers on the family meet in the short, but it's different sort of magical anxiety things every week. And I'm working on a romantic comedy about astral projection that's a feature that I'm hoping something will happen with. So yeah, turns out I'm really into metaphor. I figured it out at 37. Totally. But yeah, so those are the things I'm working on. This
Great.
is such a pleasure to be with both of you. Thank you for including me, and with a film that another short that I've loved for months.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
I mean it.
Yeah, well, thanks to both of you for being here and for sharing your films with the Chicago Film Festival. They're available throughout the U.S. starting from the 14th to the 25th, so you can point anyone across the U.S. in our direction. And the other films in the program are also excellent and funny. Almost all of them have the kind of like dark humor that your films share a little bit. So, well, thanks to you both. Appreciate you being here.
Cheers.
Thank you. Everyone take care.
You too.
You too. Thanks, Bridget.
Bye.
Bye.